Hey, I'm Zach,
And I'm Jesse
and you're watching In Depth.
on Now You Know.
All right, so what are we talking about this week, Jess?
Well, I'm just,
What's the matter? You seem really bummed.
Tesla's going to go out of business
Where'd you hear that?
on television, on the news, haven't you been following
Oh,
that?
so you've been listening to like CNBC and...
Yeah,
and,
Bob Lutz said that it's going out
Bob
of
Lutz.
business.
You know, Bob Lutz is like the boy who cried wolf. He always comes out when there's any either good or bad Tesla stories and tells you how this is the end of Tesla.
Okay, but he has some points here. He said that there's nothing about Tesla that can't be easily and quickly duplicated by other car companies. I mean, they use the same batteries, so, you could just be making the same cars.
Well, okay, so let's take that apart a little bit. Supercharger network, that's important. That's a necessity for any electric car company to have, right? You need to be able to charge the cars.
That's true.
Right? It's just like gas stations. So you need to have that network. Tesla has it and is building it out. None of the other car companies that I've heard of have even started building a network because they think that someone else is going to do it for them. So let's say that tomorrow GM could make this awesome killer car. Where would you charge it?
Right.
I mean, they did make the Bolt, which is a cool car. It has a good range, but you can't charge it fast anywhere. So you can't go very far.
It's true.
If you want to be able to quickly and easily do what Tesla's doing, that means you have to take your culture of having made ICE cars for decades and within days switch them over into making electric cars, which means they weren't trained in that. So now you have to have all these amazing engineers and stuff. So either you have to go hire them, which is hard to do. You have to find amazing, brilliant engineers in manufacturing, and then you have to train them. I mean, this isn't something you can just turn around and do.
So it's not it's not as easily replicatable as it may seem.
Right, and then let's say that you do come out with a product. For people to want to buy it, you have to have brand loyalty. Well, Tesla has brand loyalty now because they've been showing that this amazing, their Motor Trend Car of the Year. They've been showing that their Consumer Reports Car of the Year, so forth. GM, the only car that they've shown to even compete with Tesla has been their electric car.
True.
So their brand loyalty is very low. When you say GM, people don't usually aren't chomping at the bit for their latest car. And then I guess lastly, I'd say something like the Gigafactory. Elon knows that to build this many cars, you need to build a lot of batteries. So he's been planning for this by building a factory. How would another car manufacturer build a Gigafactory? He hasn't even finished his first Gigafactory yet. So they'd have to start tomorrow, and they're not starting tomorrow.
Right. And right now they're just completely relying on LG.
Right. So they're going to be they're relying on battery manufacturers that aren't in house. So that's another problem. Like he's making it seem easy. It's not easy. If it were easy, they would be pivoting faster.
Right.
So you said Tesla's going to go out of business, though.
Right. But there's so many other 300-mile cars that are coming out. There's the Porsche Mission E.
Oh, yeah. Like in 5 years, there's going to be the Fisker, which will go like 400 or 500 miles.
Right.
There's a whole bunch. You're right. There's a whole bunch of cars that
there's lots of concept cars of all these things that are going to come out in 2020.
I know. This is December of 2017.
Right.
And by the time 2020 comes around, let's just say that you're absolutely right, that all these car companies have actual cars in mass production in 2020, which is not what they said. They said they'd have the car starting to roll off.
Okay.
But let's just say they're massively rolling out. Well, that's 3 years from now. In 3 years, where's Tesla going to be? Tesla's going to have already had the Model 3 out for 3 years. They'll have already gone to the Model Y and the pickup truck. Their Roadster will be coming out, which is killing any hypercar that's out there.
It's true.
So 3 years is a huge amount of time, and these companies will just be starting. That, again, is kind of easy for Bob to say.
Right. And so everything's going to be compared to the Model 3.
Right. And by then, so many people are going to have the Model 3, it'll be the standard that you'll have to work to. Right. And don't forget that a lot of these cars you're talking about that they're going to come out with in 2020, supposedly, the Mission E and so forth, those are Model S killers. So that means that their price points were set at, can we come up with something at like $80,000 or $100,000 that'll even come close to the Model S? So when they do that in 2020...
the Model 3.
The Model 3 costs a fraction of that.
That's true.
And that's where most of the car buyers are. They're setting their target the wrong spot.
Right.
Tesla does have one problem, I'll totally admit, which is that Elon sets deadlines that aren't always on target. Would you rather have that or have him set a deadline that's so far in the future that when they finally hit it, it's perfectly on time. I mean, so yes, the Model 3 is going through production hell, which he admitted in the beginning it would be. He said we'd be here on the S-curve somewhere. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll be out of production hell, and we'll be mass producing the car in huge numbers.
They're going to run out of money by then. They're not going to have the money to be able to keep running the company. I mean, they're just constantly burning money.
So they're not burning money. They're building things. They're building factories,
Okay.
right? And so every company that wants to manufacture something has to invest money. And that's what Tesla's doing. That's happened throughout history. If
Right,
you-
but they're not turning a profit.
So the Model S, the Model X, they are making money. They have margins of about 25% on each car. So each car they sell makes them money. They're making profit on those cars.
And that's paying for
people-
the cost of the materials and the labor.
Well, so people confuse this all the time. Bob says things like their cars aren't making money. Yes, their cars are making money. That money's then getting put back into investing in their infrastructure, in their factories and so forth.
Okay.
That's what a company should do. He's comparing it to something like GM that's already built all their factories and is now in the they're in the more mature stage of a company where you expect them to just kind of go along slowly, making money every year. Tesla is a new upstart company that's growing fast, and so they're going to be investing in things like gigafactories and Fremont factories and batteries and robots and all this stuff. And that's what they're doing.
Okay.
But many people confuse those two things. The Model 3 is going to have a margin of like 22%, so they're going to make money on each car, and they're going to be selling a lot more of those cars than the Model S and the X. So they are going to make money, but you're right. Right now, they're spending a lot of money. They're not burning it. They're spending it.
Okay.
And they're spending it on things that hopefully, if they're right, will make them money.
Okay, but they're spending so much money that they're going to run out of money unless they do another capital raise. I mean, that's ridiculous. Another capital raise?
So let's talk about this because I think that Bob loves to make it sound scarier than it is. When a company starts, you get some angel investors in there, right? They pour some money into the company, and then very soon afterwards, usually 18 months later, you got to pour more money into the company because you haven't started making money yet. And so do those angel investors go, wait a minute, I didn't think you were going to do that? No, they know that's going to happen. It's another round of investing. You go through multiple rounds of investing, and that dilutes the earlier shareholders. Why would they stand for that? Because the company is now growing and getting worth more, so their shares are getting worth more at the same time that you're diluting them. That's what's happening with Tesla shareholders now. Those of us who get it are happy to dilute those shares, to invest more money in the company. Those who want to be like Bob Lutz and who scare everybody are using scare tactics, and they're going, they're diluting the shares. They need to raise more capital. Yes, they do. That's part of the plan. It's not like this was some kind of surprise to everybody. We all knew that Elon wants to build more gigafactories. We want to make more cars. These cars are going to be very profitable, but you have to have factories to build them in.
Okay, but Elon just keeps sort of, distracting everybody by doing all these things like, look at the Roadster, look at the Semi, look at, this, look at that. It's never like, look at my numbers.
Bob Lutz likes to think in terms of car companies because he came from 47 years of GM making cars. Tesla's not just a car company. Tesla makes a lot of things. I would argue that they're a car company, a semi-truck company, a battery storage company, an energy company with SolarCity. They are into so much, and soon will be a satellite company, so a communications company. They're into automation, so they're autonomously designing cars that can drive. That's multiple companies that you got right there, not just one car manufacturer.
That's true.
That's all that GM is. To diversify, GM has been buying up autonomous car manufacturing, like cruise automation, so that they can get into that game. Tesla's already in that game. So this distraction you're talking about, well, okay, a few years ago, Elon distracted us all with a reusable rocket. He said, I'd like to make a rocket that goes up, comes back down, and you can reuse it again. Guess what? It's here. And it's making him able to do his other company, SpaceX, which is able to put satellites into space cheaper.
It's true.
Then Elon came along and he had another distraction for us. It was called, I'm going to have a large SUV, electric car. And people said, you can't do that. That's way too big. And what, you want falcon wing doors? That's a distraction. That's crazy.
Right.
Yes, it took a while to come out. It was delayed. And during that time, everyone said, your company's going to fail because you've delayed and these crazy falcon wing doors. And guess what? He finally did it. And it's amazing. And it drew the attention of the world. And everyone is just blown away when they see it. And it's like free advertising for the company.
That's true.
Every time he says, I'm going to do something, he actually does it. Is that a distraction? I don't think so. He says, I'm going to come up with a semi-truck. We saw it driving around 65 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, all night long, quietly, no emissions. it's going to come, it's going to disrupt the entire trucking industry.
Bob Lutz, he came out the day after the semi-truck was unveiled and the Roadster was unveiled, and everyone was really excited. So, I mean, why did he come out on the day after that happened? Like, why wasn't he saying this before?
What do you think was going on in the rest of the world while we were in LA watching this amazing truck come out and this amazing car company come out? Companies all around the world were having panic attacks. They were going, what is this truck? What is this car? What is this? Wait a minute. What? How can we compete? We must stop this. One way you do that is you quietly work hard, like the Dysons of the world and the Fiskars of the world. You keep just pushing along, getting that technology to work. Another way you do it is that you jump on Tesla's share price and try and get it to somehow fail so that it'll go out of business because you'll have one less competitor.
So, I mean, is it that Tesla is lowering the price of its own shares by doing things wrong, or is it just sort of pretend fluff that's just sort of...
Let's use some history here. So let's talk about a company called Amazon.
I've heard of that company.
Back in 2006, though, I remember clearly that was the first time that it really kind of hit me because it was the first time I used it to buy Christmas presents.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
In 2006, when I talked about that with other people, they were like, here's what I heard. You're crazy to give your credit card information over the internet? And do you know if it's going to even arrive? And what do you even know what you're buying?
That's true.
That's all I heard. And when it worked and Christmas was easier that year, I thought, I'm going to use it next year. And guess what? Next year when I used it, more people said, oh, you know what? I used it too. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And then more and more and more. So you're looking right now at a chart.
Yep.
And this shows their revenue. Amazon's revenue. Now, what I'm talking about back in 2006, you can see that it was just really low on this beginning of this S-curve. And that, for most people, 2006 is about the time they heard about Amazon. I don't know if that's when you used it. Maybe comment below when the first time was you used Amazon.
Yeah, okay.
But now look at that curve. It takes off from 2006, right? It
Right.
turns into an S-curve. It just...
So they're turning a
goes
huge
vertical.
profit now, right?
Well, look at that line underneath that revenue. That flat line there.
Yeah.
That's been their profit all along.
Oh.
Most quarters, they don't make a profit.
Well, okay, so where's all that money going? I mean, it must be going to, like, what, they're just burning money?
Again, a lot of people have said that over the years. They're like, investing in Amazon is stupid because what have they got to show for it? Where's their profit? Well, first of all, they have a third of the market share. So they have a third of the market share of online shopping. That's incredible. Secondly, they have all these other companies they've started. So most of us here in the consumer space don't know about their servers and their cloud servers, but they're a huge force to be reckoned with in cloud computing. That's where most of their money is being made right now, actually.
Oh, really?
And they wouldn't have had the money for that if they hadn't been, making all this money in retail.
Okay.
Also, have you heard of Amazon Prime?
Yeah, so I mean, like, I get my packages in 2 days.
Right? But Amazon Prime is now also music. It's also
That's true.
movies and TV. It's basically a competitor of Netflix. They wouldn't have been able to do that if they hadn't been doing this. So again, it's a business that a lot of people don't fully understand because they understand brick and mortar stores. But if you were old enough to remember all the arguments that were going on over 10 years ago, the arguments were, this little internet shopping is just a fad. It's never going to last because you need brick and mortar stores. You need places for people to go and touch the items.
And Tesla is a company where you can actually buy a new car on the internet. You don't need to go to a store.
Which
In fact,
saves
there's
a
no
lot.
dealership at all.
Saves a lot of money. But again, for a lot of people, that's the weird part. They're like, how could this work? I need to go to a dealer where they screw me and make sure I have to keep coming back to them for service.
Right.
I don't understand this car you talk about that never needs service.
Right.
And that's the thing. Every time you talk about a company like Tesla, there's going to be so many new things about it that it sounds like it's too good to be true. For a lot of people, that will be too good to be true until there's a Model 3 sitting in their neighbor's driveway and they go over and take a test ride in it. And then they go, oh, crap.
That's true.
I want that too.
Right.
And you know what? Until pretty much today, until we've actually driven in the Model 3, and I'm talking about we've both been behind in the driver's seat and we've driven it, I can honestly say Elon has delivered on the Model 3. Now, has he gotten the production to the numbers he wants yet?
Has he
No.
delivered all the Model 3s? No.
No. But the car itself is amazing. And anyone who drives it, from the few people we've actually had in there so far to the many more who are going to be in it, anyone who gets in it is going to want it.
It's true.
If you want a Model S, then you definitely want a Model 3. You know why? Because it's a Model S for a cheaper price.
It's true.
It's the Model S killer.
So all of these companies have been coming out with the Model S killer, the Model S killer, the Model S killer.
Tesla killed their own,
Tesla is going to probably kill the Model S themselves.
and that's exactly what Elon wanted. Elon wanted to get the mass market car out there to as many people as possible to change transportation as we know it, to make transportation sustainable. He did not want to make killer amounts of money so he could live in a pile of cash. He wants to change the world, and that's another thing that people can't understand.
That's true.
Bob doesn't understand it. All these analysts don't understand it, but you know what? It's working.
It's true.
And that's the other thing. Bob Lutz has 47 years of experience working for GM. I'm an expert. Got to listen to me.
Right.
I'm sorry, but the paradigms shift every now and then, and you're living in a paradigm shift right now. And so when you hear people like that say that they're experts, be very careful because they really don't know what they're talking about anymore.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, just because they knew how to make a car for the past 40 years doesn't mean they know how to make a car going forward. Everything is changing as we speak. A year ago, when we started doing Tesla Time News, most car manufacturers said that Tesla was crazy.
And that they would never make an electric car.
They just, CEO after CEO said, yeah, go for it there, Tesla. We're not doing that.
People won't want to charge cars. They don't understand it.
Right. And then, just about the past year, there's been a paradigm shift where every car company, you can't find a car company, I don't think, that hasn't said EVs are the future.
Right.
They just can't pivot fast enough, but they all see it coming. That means that all the way they've been doing things up until now are pretty much wrong. Yes, the cars still ride on 4 tires. They still drive on a road. But other than that, they're completely different. So they have to relearn their whole business.
That's true.
And most people have been doing something for 40 or 50 years. I'm sorry, they're like old dogs with new tricks. It's kind of hard to learn new tricks. I'm that way. It's hard for me to get into the mindset of new change.
It's true. I mean, you don't have a smartwatch yet.
Exactly. That's going to take a while.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm sure there's going to be lots of comments about what we're wrong or right about. Please post them below. We love to read your comments. And remember to hit the subscribe and like button so you can keep getting our content. We do Tesla Time News every Tuesday, as we have for the past 65 weeks.
All right, so thank you so much for watching.
Now you know.